All right, it is 7 o'clock, so we'll get started. I have the great privilege of introducing my friend and coworker, Dr. Leeann Fogelson. Tonight's webinar is brought to you by the Selective Mutism Association and was made possible thanks to a generous grant from the Gordon and Marilyn Macklin Foundation. We are super grateful for their support for this and other projects that the SMA, the Selective Mutism Association, is working on. This webinar is being recorded and will be available on the Selective Mutism Association YouTube channel, which already has about 16 fabulous free videos. It'll be uploaded in about 24 to 48 hours. A link to the recording will also be sent to all of you who are the registrants. Again, you can ask questions through the chat. I'll do my very best to organize the questions in themes in the last 15 minutes of the presentation. And a reminder that our next webinar is on July 16th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time for treating professionals. And title of that is What's the Evidence? A review of the latest research on selective mutism treatments, mechanisms, and correlates from our president-elect, Dr. Rachel Merson from Boston University. So Leeann Fogelson earned her PhD. I think the ink is still wet, right?
It certainly is.
It certainly is. June 9th, if I remember correctly. Is that right?
I graduated May 22nd.
May 22nd. I don't know what June 9th is. So Leeann is a PhD recipient from Fordham University. She's currently an intern at both the Churchill School in New York and at Kurtz Psychology, my practice, and she's staying on with us as a postdoctoral fellow. And we are so thrilled about that. Leeann and I get to spend a lot of time together thinking about selective mutism and tweaking what is already an effective approach. And this topic tonight about what parents can do that's supporting their kids, but not pushing them at too quick a pace is just a part of our work every single day. So I couldn't think of a more important topic. And Leeann, without further ado, I'll turn it over to you. I'll just make one more housekeeping remark, which is to submit your questions to the chat. And again, I'll do my very best to curate them and present them to you at the end. So the floor is yours, Leeann.
Okay, thank you so much for that introduction. And I am so happy to be here to be talking about this important topic. I'm hopeful that you will come out of this talk having more knowledge than you might have had before, and a few strategies that you can implement starting tonight, tomorrow, as soon as you can get out there. So let's get started. So I want to first start talking about the conceptualization of SM. SM is a solution to a problem. In the short term, it works really well. Something that was really overwhelming all of a sudden becomes a little less overwhelming. Unfortunately, it's a maladaptive solution because it doesn't work in the long term. And when we're thinking about the conceptualization of SM, we're really thinking about the balance between nature and nurture. And I want to go into a little bit about that. So the nature part. The apple doesn't always fall far from the tree. 75% of our children with selective mutism have one or both parents with either a history of selective mutism, a history or current social anxiety or social phobia, or some subclinical anxiety that may or may not be interfering. And we can also know that there's this predisposition to be a little bit more inhibited that we can see early on in life. We can think about this as you are born with a light switch or a dimmer switch. You're just born with it. And whether it gets turned on or off, on meaning that you're going to have a little bit more anxiety, might be the nurture part. So when we're thinking about the nurture part, we're really thinking about how the environment shapes how our kids' anxiety presentation actually is maintained. And so I want to talk a little bit about the conceptualization of anxious avoidance. So first, I'm going to move my face out of the way, actually. Our child is prompted to talk or engage. Oh, you are so cute. How old are you? What's your name? Okay, what happens? Ooh, the child gets too anxious. And the child may avoid. That may be that they're not speaking, that they're hiding behind a parent or they're looking down. Now, the really well-intentioned adult who asked this question to begin with is feeling really bad that they made this kid feel really anxious. So they're going to rescue them. Oh, actually, I think your mom told me your name is Sally, or I think you're actually getting into second grade now. What happens then? The child's anxiety is lowered. Phew, I got out of that situation. The adult's anxiety is lowered. Phew, that kid is no longer anxious because of me. But what happens is now we've negatively reinforced that interaction, meaning that it worked in the short term, but it's more likely that the cycle is going to happen again, where if they are prompted to engage the next time, they're going to avoid because they're now practicing this cycle. So caregivers, whether that is a parent, a teacher, a grandparent, all the wonderful people in a child's life, you are the agents of change to reverse this pattern of negative reinforcement. The reason why that is when a child comes to see their therapist or their social work, any type of person, a provider that is helping them, we get the pleasure of seeing them maybe 1 hour a week, maybe a little bit more or less than that. And we can make awesome change and progress within that hour. But caregivers are with their children so many more hours of the day, have so many more experiences with their child, and a lot more experiences where the child may be prompted to engage and then feel anxious in that moment. And so it's so important for parents or caregivers to really understand how best to help their child in those moments. So we always end up here. We have a fork in the road. The child is prompted to speak. We have two options here. We can enable or we can accommodate. And I'm going to talk about what each of those would mean. So when we're thinking about enabling, this is any situation when we remove the expectation that the child speak in a certain situation without providing support. So this might mean a child gets asked a question, let's say, oh, so-and-so, you are so cute, what is your name? And someone goes, oh, her name is Sally. So we took that opportunity for that child to, one, feel that anxiety a little bit more and realize they can push through. And two, we took away that practice to be able to do it. And it isn't because we, as the caring caregivers, wanted to take away that experience for them. We're just very well intentioned. No one wants to see a kid in distress. And so I want us to look at an example of what enabling looks like, because it isn't just caregivers, although sometimes it is mostly the adults in the child's life that might do it. We also know that peers and siblings, sometimes well-intentioned, sometimes enable. So we have a really fun video to show that talks exactly about this, when a peer enables another child.
What is your favorite flavor of ice cream? Vanilla with sprinkles. With sprinkles, okay.
I like sprinkles too.
So what you're hearing here are typically developing kids who are answering a question about ice cream. They're going ahead and they're speaking up and saying what their favorite ice cream flavor is. But we're waiting to hear from the child that we really want to hear from.
Okay, sprinkles. Joe, what's your favorite flavor of ice cream? Hold them and tell me. What's your favorite flavor of ice cream?
He likes chocolate.
I need to hear from him.
So the friend, he likes chocolate. You're enabling, you took away that, but you were so well-intentioned. And so now Dr. Kurtz, being Dr. Kurtz, knew not to take that opportunity away and say, I need to hear from him.
Excellent. And what do you like on top?
Chocolate. Sprinkles.
Joe, what do you like to drink after you've had ice cream? Change of heart. Water for Joe.
So he was able to answer. And so it's so wonderful to see when we take away that enabling behavior that the child is able to answer.
What is your favorite flavor of ice cream?
So here's the thing. Enabling, there are positives and negatives about enabling. And I always like to talk about that there are these positive and negatives, because when we hear enabling, it's, oh no, we're enabling. But let's talk about some of the positives. It is coming from a loving place. As I said earlier, no one wants to see their child in distress. So of course you want to protect them. It also demonstrates how much your child trusts you. And trust is so important in this treatment. If I am asking you to do something that is scary for you and you don't trust me, we're not going to get that far. And when your child looks at you when they're prompted to engage and they might look a little bit frightened, that moment is saying to you how much they trust you, how much you've protected them, that they look for you. You're going to protect me. And you are going to protect them, maybe in a different way, but they know every instance you are there for them. You've put on every Band-Aid on their boo-boo. You have tucked them in at night. You've done all the things. You have earned that trust. And when used intentionally, enabling might actually be the more appropriate choice. And we'll talk about when that might be. Okay, so let's also flip the coin and talk about the negatives. So the child doesn't have the opportunity to practice when we take away that opportunity, when we talk for them, when we allow someone else to talk for them, when we skip over them because we think that they're not going to be able to answer, or if we accept a nonverbal response, we are taking away that opportunity to practice being verbal. Okay, it strengthens the habit of avoidance, right? So that cycle, we've now done another loop of that cycle. It can strengthen the other people's perceptions that this child doesn't talk. And it can feel really bad because we know, of course we know, that these kids have tons of things to say and share, and they have interest and they have answers to our questions, but they don't have the opportunity to share it. And we want them to know that they absolutely can do it. Okay, this is where we get to the point where I hear a lot of caregiver goes, oh no, I've enabled before. Wait, I enabled today. You're human, okay? And you do so much for your children on a day-to-day basis. Think of everything that you do, whether you're a parent, you are making dinner, going to work, picking them up, bringing them to extracurricular activities. If you're a teacher, you're doing a lesson, you're doing this, you're doing that. There's so much going on in your day that not every single opportunity is something that you're going to take advantage of. And that's okay. If you enable, because let's say you are rushing to get your kids to school and you're desperate in need for your coffee, and you get to Starbucks and the barista says, oh, does your little girl, do you want whipped cream on your Frappuccino? I don't know what, you might then just say, oh, no, we're fine, because you have to rush out the door. Did you just completely ruin treatment and progress for your child? No. What you're going to do in that moment is think to yourself, I intentionally didn't have that practice opportunity because it wasn't the right time. I'll circle back. I'll make sure to look at other parts of my day where we can practice, and that's okay. At Kurtz Psychology, we actually have something called the parent pledge that we like to do with a lot of families for this reason. Parents beat themselves up over times where they might have enabled or might have taken that opportunity away from their kid. And what we like to say is, hey, you are human. You are doing the best that you could at the time with the information that you had. And we always say, like, please raise your hand. We're not going to beat ourselves up anymore. And so, note to self, you are human. Another example of a time where we might actually choose to enable is, let's say your child is sick. I don't think kids go to the doctor that much during the year where it's consistent practice talking to a doctor. Hopefully they don't go that much. I mean, with COVID, I don't know. But regardless, they're not getting that much practice. Now your child is sick. They have a sore throat. They're feeling terrible. And you get to the doctor's office. You might be thinking to yourself, this actually isn't a good opportunity for us to practice. My child is sick. So when the doctor asks, where does it hurt? You make a decision in that moment to say her throat hurts. But again, you're thinking in your head, note to self, I'm looking for other times to practice. And that's okay. So now let's say we're in another fork in the road, but this time we're going to, instead of enabling, we're going to choose to accommodate. Now, when I talk about accommodation, I am not talking about 504 or IEP accommodations. And I'm really sorry if you came to this talk hoping for those. It might be in another talk, I'm sure that it is, and it is important information. Those types of accommodations are how can your student or your child learn the best in school, what supports they need in school, which is great. I'm talking about a different form of accommodation. I'm also not talking about accommodation that is negative. There is a negative connotation when people say accommodation. Someone's overly accommodating, where they actually are referring to enabling. But in our SM work, when we say accommodation, what we really mean is the supports that you put in place to help your child achieve a goal. So the goal might be really difficult still, but it's attainable. And so we are doing behaviors that gradually help the child reach that goal. So an example of this might be you're at the ice cream store and you have been working on practicing ordering ice cream at home, but you haven't been able yet to practice in the ice cream store in a full volume voice. And so you get to the counter and your child whispers their ice cream order, I want chocolate. I don't know if you could just hear me whispering, I want chocolate. And then you decide to reflect that back to the person at the counter. They'll have chocolate. So I didn't take away the opportunity for them to verbalize. I actually met them where they were at and chose a way to help them be verbal in that moment. So this is an example of accommodation of a child who has never spoken in class before.
When Michael finished with one question that he asked you, no trust his face. Not yet. Keep going. Yeah, that's so true.
So you can hear him whispering to Dr. Kurtz.
So, Michael said begins with A and ends with A. What states are possible?
So when we were reflecting that, we were accommodating. So I didn't take away that opportunity. I was actually enhancing that opportunity for where that child was at currently. So if our ultimate goal is for that child to present in the classroom in their full voice, we're thinking in our head, how can we break that apart to take it one step at a time to be successful at that top row of presenting in our full voice? And if that means we start off in a whisper and we accept that whisper, that's okay, knowing that we're going to move up our ladder.
And that was actually him just pressing play on a pre-recorded whisper.
Ah.
So it was even a smaller step on the way up that ladder.
Exactly. So for some students, they might want to record themselves because that would be a little bit lower. Then the next step would be to actually whisper maybe in the room, or maybe whisper to a smaller group of students. As with enabling, there are always positives and negatives. So some of the positives about accommodation is it actively reverses that negative cycle of avoidant child behavior. It also builds distress tolerance for you and your child, because instead of, uh-oh, they're anxious, I'm going to jump in, you are, uh-oh, they're anxious, and I know they can do it. Or, uh-oh, I'm also anxious, but I know that we can do it, because we made a very systematic plan to know that we're starting where they're going to be able to move up. I'm not asking them to do something that is going to be out of their reach right now. But yes, it requires some level of distress tolerance. It's allowing your child to practice in a systematic way, and it builds that confidence and self-esteem. We love seeing kids smile when they know, like, I just did attendance for the first time. I raised my hand for the first time. It makes them feel so good. But hey, there are some negatives too. It is not always easy, especially when the distress tolerance is still starting to build and you see that your child is looking really anxious and you're feeling that anxiety. It's not always easy to do this. It's going to take time, and that's okay. And also, you might put one strategy into place, and we'll talk about lots of different strategies, and it might not work, and you might need to pull out another one. But accommodation really requires time, patience, and planning. And if, let's say, again, you don't have the time to follow through and make accommodations as you see fit, that's okay. You're going to think for the next time what you can do in another moment. So there's a very popular saying at Kurtz Psychology, get comfortable being uncomfortable. And this is a message that we say across families and to kids. So when we are putting you in a situation, or kids in a situation where they are going to do something that is a little scary, we want you to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And when a parent is able to sit in this space of it's uncomfortable and still push through, it not only models for their child, hey, it's okay to be uncomfortable and we can still be successful, and it gives us practice. Okay, so you might be thinking, all right, Dr. Fogelson, that's all great, but how do I know what to accommodate or what to enable? Cool, we got you. So I didn't make up this theory. Lev Vygotsky made up this theory. It's called the zones of proximal development. But here's how it relates to selective mutism. Here in our middle blue circle are the things that your child can do independently. So this is going to be different for each person's child. So you might be thinking, okay, what can my child do independently? Well, they can absolutely talk to every family member. They can even talk to extended family members. They're able to whisper in their classroom. Okay, so these are the things that they can do independently. Here in our yellow middle circle, here are the things that your child can do with assistance. So similar to the video where the child was practicing a whisper or using a video recording of his whisper. That was him being able to practice being in front of the classroom, but he needed a little bit of assistance or that accommodation. Then here's our orange circle on the outside. This is the areas that your child is not able to do even with assistance. If we ask them to do it, we would be setting them up for failure because they're not yet ready to do it. And that's okay. If you think about it, when you learned how to ride a bike, you started off with a tricycle, unless you didn't, but don't tell me if you didn't because it ruins my metaphor. But let's say you did. You started with a tricycle, 3 wheels, moving on up. Then you go with 2, but your parent is completely over you the whole entire time, making sure that you're really safe. And then maybe they're just holding from the behind on the seat. And now they're running next to you. And now boom, you're on your way. So you can kind of think about it like that. Which step am I at? But if that doesn't work for you, let's think about it this way. A traffic light. Green, things your kids can do independently. Yellow, it is attainable, but they may need support. It may be difficult, but they can do it. Red, it's a little out of reach yet. It is a goal for us down the line. We are absolutely going to get there, but we're not there yet. And that's okay. And so we might be in this area thinking of enabling because we are making a choice that our kid is not yet able to do this. And I'm going to step in for them because I'm protecting them. Here, if we stepped in and didn't give them the opportunity, then it wouldn't be that helpful because we know that they're able to do it with the assistance. Here, there's no need for anything. Go be yourself, love it. So I like to think about what questions I ask myself when I'm working with anxious kids. So I think to myself, which talking zone does this situation fall into? Is it that small, medium, or large? Is it the green, yellow, or the red? Because that's going to direct how I am interacting with them, whether I am deciding, go free, or let me think of what strategy I can use to help that child, or this isn't a time for us to work on this because it's a little out of reach for now. I also am thinking to myself, am I making this choice because it will help the child cope more effectively next time, meaning I'm helping them become independent, or am I helping my child avoid and unintentionally reinforce their fear, and therefore they're going to remain a little bit more dependent? I also ask myself, am I making this choice because I feel distressed? Or can I remind myself this is an opportunity for me to do this for my child? I'm not doing it to my child, I'm doing it for you. Is this the right time to practice? Sometimes the answer is going to be no. I think we can all think about a time where our child was hungry, tired, cranky, all of those things, or we're in a rush. I'm not going to ask them to do something that is very hard in those moments because I want to set them up for success, and that wouldn't be this scenario. Then I think to myself, okay, here's the situation. Here's my overall goal. How can I break that situation down into smaller bits so I can make this child successful and actually avoid enabling? So let's find out how to effectively accommodate. The thing that we're going to do is to use shaping strategies. When we're talking about shaping, we're talking about a procedure used to establish a behavior that is not presently performed by that individual, meaning it's that big goal. It's talking in front of the class in your full volume. It is answering in a full sentence. Whatever we want our child to do, that's the ultimate goal. Now we're going to reinforce small steps towards that goal.
And I'll just take the kid who we watched before. When
Yes.
he made the video with me in a barely audible whisper in the OT's room next to his classroom, that was shaping up to being able to press play on the laptop in his classroom. And later in that video, I asked him, "Who do you want me to call on?" And he's whispering to me in my ear. And that whisper was shaping up to being able to do it, not cupping my hands. So all of that is kind of shaping up.
Absolutely. Those are great examples. And let's take an example of ordering ice cream. I guess I really had ice cream on the mind when I was making this PowerPoint. But our ultimate goal here is for our child to order independently at the counter. How am I going to get my child to do that? Let's start with step one. Step one might be just responding to a comfortable adult's forced choice question in a familiar setting, meaning someone who they're already verbal with in a setting that they're already verbal in. So it could be a parent in your home. It could be a teacher in a very specific classroom, wherever they're already verbal. And we're going to...
Can you model maybe you being the parent and me being the kid and we're in the apartment?
Yes, let's do it.
All right.
Okay, so we are practicing being able to order ice cream. And so
I want you to order.
I hear you telling me that you want to order, and I know that we're going to practice and you're going to be able to do it. So let's start now. Let's just practice. If I said to you, do you want vanilla or chocolate?
Chocolate.
Chocolate. Great job telling me chocolate. Okay. Now I'm going to move up the ladder. So I've had success there. Great job telling me chocolate at home when you were comfortable with someone you were comfortable with. Okay, so we know that forced choice questions can sometimes be a little bit easier for kids. Now I'm taking it again one step up and using an open-ended question. So I might be saying, Steve, what flavor can I get you?
Coffee. You know I like coffee.
Coffee. I totally knew you liked coffee. And again, I'm using this, I'm comfortable, he's verbal with me, we're in a familiar setting. Of course, we have 170 people here, so very comfortable setting for us. And we're practicing. Now we're taking it one step further again. Let's practice with other people. So it's so great that he's able to be verbal with me to order his ice cream, but I might not be the person at the counter. In fact, I'm not going to be the person at the counter. So it's time for us to start practicing with other people to show our child you could do it with just about anyone because you're building this confidence. And so whether that's a caregiver, another caregiver, or a sibling, it is all about this repetition and rehearsal. We are practicing. So now that we've practiced with somebody else, let's move up again. So now I'm moving up in the fact that we are actually on our way to be getting our ice cream. And I'm practicing in the car, on the walk, even outside the building or the store. Do you want vanilla or chocolate? So remembering that I've now changed a variable. We're still verbal with me, but now I've changed the setting. So it's not necessarily the comfort of being at home. I'm making it a little bit harder, but we're still practicing. Now I'm moving up even more. I'm not at the counter yet, but I might be in the corner of the store, just me and Steve going, okay, we've been practicing ordering at an ice cream store and you've been doing such a great job. So go ahead and tell me, what flavor can I get you? Or you want vanilla or chocolate? Oh, you still want coffee? Coffee. Great job telling me coffee in the store. So now I'm reinforcing that they're doing such a great job of speaking in a different setting.
So you're treating my whispering to you coffee just now the same as if I had a bullhorn, right? Or a foghorn, whatever they call that.
Absolutely. Yes, that is a step towards the ultimate goal. And I'm going to take that. But I'm not taking away your opportunity and saying, just point to it. I'm wanting you to be verbal, and you are. So great job. Okay, so now we did it with me. Let's start doing it with other people in the store. So a sibling comes, dad comes, grandma comes, and now it becomes a little fun game. I want chocolate, or I want coffee. What? Did you say you wanted coffee or something else? Coffee. Okay, great. Coffee. Thanks for telling me. Every single time we're doing this, we are practicing, we're over-learning how to do this, because what we know, and I think you can imagine this in so many situations, when you're feeling anxious, sometimes your mind goes blank. And so when you actually get up to the counter, even though they get coffee every single time, but they get up to the counter and their anxiety is saying, what? I don't know what I want. And they become blank. And so instead of that, we're practicing it so much that it's just going to become natural. And after we've done all of these steps to get you ready, boom, ordering at the ice cream counter. So every single step here is accommodating to get you to this ultimate goal. And listen, sometimes you're going to have to stay at one of these ladder rungs a little bit longer, or you might have to go back to one, and that's okay. We're going to figure out where we need to go and how we know when we move up or when we pull back. Because of course, treatment is not always linear. Sometimes it's not going to look just like this, but it is the goal to break it down into small parts to get them to the bigger goal. So
Leeann, if I've never spoken to the guy behind the counter, the teenager who's adorable, right?
Yeah.
They say, what do you want? And if I turn to you and I kind of cup my hands to you and say, coffee, and if I've never even done that before, would you celebrate that just as much as if I said?
Chef's kiss. Yes. Because what we know about treatment of selective mutism is when we change a variable, whether that's the setting, the activity, or the person, that can be very tricky. And so we might have been practicing and you're able to do it in the setting of the store, but now I've changed a variable and you're actually talking to someone you've never talked to before. And so if I need to take one step back and you're just whispering, that is a huge win. Huge. Again, knowing that we're going to shape up to doing it even a little bit louder next time. But right now, for your first time, win. Okay, so there are lots of different strategies that we can use to shape behavior. One of the ones we'll start with are incentives for that target behavior. So when we're working with kids with selective mutism, we are constantly giving out stickers, stars, anything on a brave talking sheet, because we're reinforcing that behavior. So great job using one, if I said to you, do you want chocolate or vanilla? They said, vanilla. Great job telling me vanilla. Sticker. If the behavior is a little bit harder, like a full sentence, I might be saying, for 3 stickers, go ahead and tell me in a full sentence, you want coffee ice cream. And even a strategy would be to say, it would sound like this: I want coffee ice cream. Go ahead and tell me coffee ice cream. Oh my God, great job telling me coffee ice cream. Boom, 3 stickers or 3 stars on your chart. And then what we like to do is cash in those stickers or those stars for a reward, because we know you worked really, really hard to be able to do that, and you deserve to be recognized for that. Another approach that you can use is a fill in the blank approach, which I actually really like to do. So if our ultimate goal is for the child to use a full sentence, but they're not there yet, but we don't want to take away that opportunity, we in fact actually want to accommodate and help them get there, what we can do is say, we could start the sentence. So we are working on being able to introduce ourselves. So I'm going to start the sentence and you're going to finish it. So my name is Leeann. So they might not have been able yet to say the full sentence, my name is Leeann, but they're able to do part of it, and that's a win. And each time we're going to increase the amount of words that the kiddo is saying. So my Name is Leanne. Eventually we'll be able to get there. And so the fill in the blank approach is awesome. Then when we're thinking about question asking, a lot of the time, I mean, you can think about it in terms of how many kids, when you're listening to kids, they're asking each other questions. What do you like? What are you doing? What are you, blah, 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 blah. Tons of questions. Sometimes when we're starting out practicing questions, because again, we want our child to independently ask a question, we might decide to make a script for them. So we're asking about favorite colors. So you can ask, what's your favorite color? Or do you like blue? So I've given them 2 scripts of questions, reminding ourselves that the anxiety that they're feeling, they can ask that question because we know that they can because they're chatterboxes at home and they ask all the time. But when they're in that situation where their anxiety is spiked, poof, it's gone. So here I'm giving you the script and now you can go ahead and do it. I'm accommodating. I'm giving you that one step you needed to take the next step. Then when we're good here, we might move up to just topics to choose from. So go ahead and ask them about if they have any pets or where they live. So now, instead of having to think on their feet of what topic to ask, I've given them the topic. Now all they have to do is ask the question. Then one step up from that is maybe just telling them to generate a topic or a question. So I might be saying, all right, it's time for us to find out something from our friends. Go ahead and find something out that you didn't know before. So I'm not giving you a topic. I'm not giving you a script, but I'm helping you because I'm telling you what the expectation is. And listen, sometimes we do these beautiful strategies and our kiddos still get stuck, and that's okay. And so what happens when your child gets stuck? Just go right back to the last place of success with lower difficulty items. And so if you're at the ice cream store and they get stuck and they're not able to practice, go back outside and continue to practice. It's not that they got stuck so you leave the ice cream store completely and go, well, that was a bust. Nope. You are taking just one step down and practicing again, reminding yourself, I'm going to take that distress tolerance. I'm going to grow it. That was tricky. I thought they were going to be able to do it. It's okay that they weren't. Where were they successful last? And let's just stay there for just a little bit longer. Sometimes kids just need to know the expectation and the incentive for just a little bit of motivation. Okay, we're working up to this now. This time for 3 stickers, go ahead and tell so-and-so the weather by us. Sometimes it just helps with a little bit of motivation when they get stuck. So there's some points to remember when we're thinking about shaping. So anytime you're thinking of a big overarching goal, you're thinking to yourself, how can I break this up into more manageable, attainable goals? Practice, practice, practice. Every child will require a different level of support. You are going to now be pulling different shaping strategies from your bag. If one doesn't work, that's okay. You'll try another one, or you'll go back one and you'll keep practicing. And so if you have to go down one step because you pushed it a little too far, that's okay. That's just data for you of where your child is at right now. Because you're doing the right thing, because you're not taking away that opportunity, you're just making it more manageable. So how do I know when it's time to pull back some of my supports? Well, increased independence is a really awesome sign. So if they're not requiring as much support from you, check, that's a good sign. So maybe we've been working on full sentences, but I've had to continuously prompt the child. So I might be saying, in a full sentence, tell me this. But then the next time, before I even have the opportunity to say that prompt, they tell me something in a full sentence. And I'm saying to myself, haha, we've got some independence here. They're getting their little groove on. That's a good sign. We're also looking for decreased visible anxiety signs. If a kid is making more eye contact with me, if they're more behaviorally engaged, they're moving their toys around and they're just interacting with whatever is around them, awesome. And we're also looking at their body language. We know that we've seen kids who like shrug their shoulders a little bit or be looking down. When they're starting to look a little bit more open, we might be saying they're feeling confident here. It might be time for me to pull back support just a little bit. I'm also looking for some decrease in their latency, meaning how long does it take before they're able to respond? So if I said, do you want vanilla or chocolate? And they're answering before 5 seconds, wow, they're really confident, they can do it. But if they're still taking a little bit more time, and that's okay. That might be information for me that I should stay where I am for a little bit. But if they're answering me quickly, boom, that's showing me some confidence. And then, of course, after multiple instances of success, that's telling you you're doing the right thing. Let's pull back a little bit. Because if we don't pull back, then it might actually end up being enabling, because we always want them to get one step better, one step better. Okay, so what do I say to my child? I've been rescuing them because I'm a loving parent, and now I'm going to change my behavior. What am I going to say? They're going to look at me like, are you crazy here? First of all, I may be an expert in SM. You are the expert in your child. You're going to know what to say to them. But I just have a few extra points to it. I think transparency is key. We tell our kids all the time, we are working on brave talking. Here's what we are working on today. So there is no question about that. It's very out in the open. It's showing the kids, this isn't taboo. You're working on this. So-and-so might be working on being able to sit in their seat for more than, 5 seconds. So-and-so is working on sharing nicely. You're working on brave talking. Everybody has a thing that they're working on, and that's okay. And if you want an example script, some of the things that we say in our practice might be, we open it up. Sometimes it's hard to talk to new people and in new places, and we're here to practice, so it gets less tricky. Or, I know that talking can be scary, and I know you can do it. I really like that last sentence because we are really validating their experience. I'm not saying, it's not scary. You've talked to so-and-so before. You've been at this school for 5 years. Let's go here. What I'm saying is, I understand the experience that you're having. You are feeling scared. And I, as your parent, can tolerate that emotion from you. And I also know that you can do it because I've built up my distress tolerance, and I'm going to help you. Okay, so here's for the fun part. So we've talked about enabling and we've talked about accommodating, but they actually are pretty similar sometimes. They can get a little confusing. The lines can get a little blurred. Am I accommodating or am I enabling? And so let's practice with a few different scenarios. And this is where we're going to do a really fun poll. So, cool. Our poll is ready. Your child has been consistently practicing attendance for school, saying here, and has had success with practicing in the classroom when no one else is there. You tell the teacher that for now, please have the child practice attendance in a small group instead of in front of the whole classroom. If you do that, are you enabling or are you accommodating?
Dun 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 dun. Da 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 dum 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 da dum 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 dum.
What do we got?
We got 118 responses, with 86% saying accommodating and 14% saying enabling.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for participating. And I'm going to go with, it is accommodating, because we know our ultimate goal is for them to say here. We have set the stage for them to make a more manageable, we've broken it down to a more manageable level where we've been practicing in the classroom when no one's there. Great success. Now, if I just jumped right to, you have to talk in front of the whole entire class and say here, that might be too hard and is scary. So instead of taking away that opportunity and saying to the teacher, just don't ask them for right now, they're working on that, just don't ask them, I'm actually making it much more manageable for them to practice in a smaller setting. I moved up the ladder just one notch. Okay, so awesome work, everyone. And for those of you who said enabling, thank you for being vulnerable. It would maybe for some kids be enabling if you knew for a fact they could get there. But in this scenario, we're thinking that they weren't. Just for time's sake, let's do one more so we can have some time for Q&A. Okay. Your child is working on asking questions to peers. When it is their turn to ask a rehearsed question, they become stuck. You tell them to ask you the question first. Did you enable or accommodate?
Da 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 da. Bum 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 bum. Ba da 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 dum 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 da dum 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 dum. And we have 77% accommodating, 23% enabling.
Again, awesome participation. So I am thinking that I'm labeling that as an accommodation because I think it is too scary right now to be able to talk to that person, tell me, and I can either choose to reflect it because you are still practicing speaking in front of other people. They may hear you, or you're doing it in front of others. I'm not taking away that opportunity. I'm just helping you let it be a little bit more manageable. But let's say that we stopped there and you only were just asking me and we never moved up, we might consider that enabling. But for this scenario, we're saying that this is on that ladder of being able, the ultimate goal, being able to ask a question on their own. I am helping them with one step at a time here.
I say go with the next one and we'll just do it quickly.
Sure, absolutely.
All right.
Again, the ice cream. Your child has been practicing ordering ice cream. When it's their turn to order, they point to the ice cream flavor they want. You tell the server they want vanilla. I see why. Oop.
We have 92% enabling, 8% accommodating.
All righty. Yes, I agree. It is enabling. So awesome job. You either knew this already or I might have taught you something. Either way, great for the kids that you're working with. Yes, we took away the opportunity for them to say vanilla. When you accept a nonverbal response and don't acknowledge it and say, I see you're pointing, go ahead and tell me what flavor you want. I've now taken that opportunity for practice. And so yes, this one falls into the enable category. Okay, last but not least, you might not have actually known that the airline industry and psychology have something very much in common, a very important saying. Put your oxygen mask on before helping other people. And I genuinely mean what I'm saying here, that working when you are a parent or a caregiver or a teacher of a child with SM, it can be really hard sometimes. You're seeing that child in distress. You are seeing them want to do something, but they get a little bit stuck and it is hard. And so it really is important that you do the self-care, that you recognize the steps that you've taken to get your child to where they are right now. You showed up today. You're doing the things that you need to do to support your child. And so it is the doctor's recommendation. I signed a prescription, although I can't prescribe medicine, but if I did, it would be have a glass of wine, take a bath, have some self-care. You deserve it. And with that being said, I am done. So I'm going
You're
to
out of here. You're finished.
later.
All right. Thanks for a great presentation. I think this is the hard work of every interaction that parents, grandparents, loved ones are doing, that some of our therapists who are attending are trying to figure it out. So a couple of kind of administrative things, and then we'll go to some questions. First thing is we're here courtesy of the SMA, the Selective Mutism Association, of which I'm a proud board member. I just want to let you know that for $55, you can become a member of the SMA either as a parent or as a family membership. And that money goes a really long way towards our sharing good, accurate, evidence-based information. And if for some reason you can't afford that and want to break on that, you should certainly feel free to write us and we will try to accommodate. Our annual conference, which will be virtual this year, is October 2nd and 3rd. Registration is now open, and my colleague is going to be putting in the link both for the SMA membership and for the conference. A free resource that we want to make sure you're aware of as well is the Selective Mutism University. So Leeann was presenting on shaping and accommodations, part of a larger treatment that we've developed, and at Selective Mutism Learning you can enroll in this free course. Always has been and always will be. And Leanne, I made a really generous offer while you were presenting.
Uh-oh.
Not of you. I didn't volunteer you for anything. I told people that if they want one of the pins we have that says "Get comfortable being uncomfortable," I will send it to you for free if you email sm@kurtzpsychology.com. The only thing you have to do is make a donation of any amount to the Selective Mutism Association, and that's on the honor system. We will not be checking. So I hope you'll take us up on that. The pins are really fun. I used to give out about 1,000 a year. Since COVID, I've given out none. So I'm looking forward to sending you one. Okay, on to some questions. You mentioned how you would assess a kid being ready for the next step.
Mhm.
Can kids get stuck in the whisper phase?
That's a really good question. And so no kid gets stuck in a whisper phase. What we know is that we might need to work a little bit more on using your loud voice and practicing in a louder voice, but they don't get stuck there. When they build their confidence across, if you're whispering here, you're whispering there, you're whispering with this person across this activity, that confidence builds so much that sometimes we don't even really need to target that whisper. It ends up getting a little bit louder each time. But for other kids, we might decide to target it and say, great job telling me in a whisper. Now tell me one more time a little bit louder. Whoa, that was really loud. Great job practicing getting a little bit louder.
Now, as often as you do that, do you really as often not try and prompt for louder and accept the whisper as if it's absolutely the response that you were hoping for?
Absolutely. And if that is the appropriate decision to make at the time, 100%. If they went from not being able to answer and then answering me in a whisper, huge accomplishment. Love it. Reinforce it.
Somebody asked, what do you do when kids feel agitated with the choices? Which made me think, I'm curious what you think, but it made me think of the kids who, as another kind of anxiety that they have that's impairing, is difficulty making choices.
Yes. So one of the comorbidities or a presentation that commonly occurs with selective mutism is social anxiety. And what we see in a lot of presentations of social anxiety is this fear of making decisions. And so when you're saying, do you like purple or pink better? Well, now they're frozen, not just because they might have some SM, but now what if I choose purple and you wanted me to choose pink? Or what if your favorite color is pink and I chose purple? So now you have that added layer of the difficulty. And so we might be thinking about staying away from favorites, or you might say, like, what is one of your favorites? Because you might have multiple, or letting them know any choice is a good choice. But I also understand that some kids don't love all of the questions because we're poking on their vulnerability. It is hard, and I'm doing something that is hard. And so as much practice as you do with a child, you also want to treat them as a child and not ask questions sometimes.
So one of the questions was, if you do this every day, somebody was citing that they know about our exposure lifestyle kind of approach. Do kids get to the point that they're not trying to get out of these exposures? They know it's part of their lifestyle and they know you're going to be providing enough support so they can be successful, even if you're diluting the exposure?
So I think that if it becomes a routine in your house and kids just expect it, absolutely. You just go about your day to like, this is your life. This is what we do. It becomes natural. And so that makes a lot of sense.
Somebody's asking if you're in a situation where you couldn't have prepared, like
you
get on the elevator and you're used to doorman John being down there and it's, door person Mary, and they say, hi, sweetie, where are you going today? How do you elegantly back out of that and have it not be enabling, but still be not enabling?
Yeah. So in those situations, listen, there are always going to be times where things are out of our control. We can't plan that doorman Mary or doorwoman Mary is going to be there, and that's okay. And so we might proactively say, oh, we're on our way. But when you step outside, be like, I know you know how to say your name. Go ahead and tell me what your name is. Oh, and so many people just heard you. I'm in Manhattan, so if that were for us, it would be a great job saying that on the street where other people can hear you.
So
Or
kind
you
of
might,
exposing them to that aspect of it as well.
or letting them know, transparency. It's okay. We're going to practice again another time.
Um, how might you comment on approaches to older kids and teenagers relative to the general comments that you made?
Yeah. So with teenagers, I think it's really important to give them choices within non-choices, right? So they get to choose what their exposure is. We're doing an exposure today. We're going out and we're practicing, but where do you want to do it? Or what time is good for you, right? We can give them a little bit more autonomy in these decisions. And of course, we're not going to baby them as much. We're not going to be like, great job. My enthusiasm really suits better for younger kids, but you might just end up being a little bit more cool, calm, and collected. Awesome job practicing. I know that was hard. Good job. But you don't stray away just because it's a teen.
Somebody commented with a label praise on your enthusiasm, so it didn't go unnoticed. How do you shape people even looking at a child, like in the online virtual learning format, if they're hesitant even to be seen online?
Yes, absolutely. We have tons of kids with this. And so if your ultimate goal is to have the child on screen looking, break that down. So it might be they are just on screen. Now just their shoulder. Now it's their ear. And you're moving each way until you get to that ultimate goal. And it also might be once they're here, they're not actually looking, but they're on screen. And then the next step would be for them to look.
As I'm going through the many fabulous questions, I am cherry picking the ones that really relate more to this topic. So I don't mean to be dismissive of the many questions that are really on different topics. So hopefully you'll understand I need to kind of curate and narrow the field a little bit. When is it okay to leave the ice cream store, using ice cream store as an example, without getting it?
Without getting it. That's a really good question. And so I guess I would want a little bit more information as to what was happening in that moment. If you,
I'm gonna give an example.
Sure.
It's a non-selective mutism example, but it's an example from my work yesterday with a child. I've been using my new puppy as a reinforcer, just being able to see my puppy online. And we had a contingency. If the girl didn't get any timeouts, she'd be able to see my puppy at the end of the session. So she said at the end of the session, "Can I see Buttercup now?" And I said, "Next week, you'll have a really good chance to see Buttercup because I'm confident you will not have any timeouts." She said, "Well, can I see a picture of him?" I thought to myself, thought bubble, nice try, kid.
Yeah.
I said, "Next week, you'll get a chance."
Yes.
She said, "Can you just tell me what he's doing?" I thought to myself, nice try, kid.
Oh.
I said, "Next week, you'll get a chance." And the session ended and she didn't fall apart, and hopefully next week she will. So I could think of a scenario where not getting the ice cream would be okay. It's not okay to withhold it if ice cream was a reward for brave talking you did somewhere else.
Totally. Yes. And so we do set those limits sometimes, but in a warm way, just like Dr. Kurtz was just giving an example, you weren't able to do it now, but I know you're going to be able to do it next week, or you're going to have another opportunity.
And it's our job to create that opportunity.
Yes.
And to create it in a way that they have a better chance at success other than simply coming back and trying it again.
Absolutely.
So maybe it takes more rehearsal. Maybe we practice 4 feet away from the counter before we go right up to the counter.
Right.
Maybe next time it'll be okay if you whisper it in my ear. So all of that would be under your shape.
Exactly. Right. So that is data that we just collected that maybe it was too hard. What can I do to set my child up for success?
Let's see. Is it ever okay to threaten to take away a reward or to say if you don't answer, you won't get a sticker? What do you think?
So I would not, that would not be the choice that I would make, because the child isn't actively, it's not about oppositionality. They're not saying I'm not going to do it. It's they aren't able to do it because their anxiety is so high. if they could do it, they would. And so it isn't about that they're just being stubborn and putting their foot in. If they were being stubborn and putting their foot in, I might say, let's think about some consequences for that behavior. But this isn't oppositionality. This is really hard. And so I flip the script and say, when you're able to do it, then you're going to get a reward. And if you're not this time, next time I know you can do it.
And again, it's our job to make that next opportunity as close as possible in time, and to do a different kind of preparation that sets them up for success. Simply retaking a test that you got a bad grade on doesn't increase the chance that you'll pass the test.
Right.
Yeah. So no surprise, time flies, huh?
I know, time flies when we're having fun. And I do see that lots of questions are flying in.
So many questions.
We are more than happy to continue this conversation. I also want to say that we have a virtual Mighty Mouth Kids Camp coming up in August that we still have open spots for. It's a great opportunity to have your child practice all of the skills that we're talking about, and you get to practice all of these different strategies because you are going to be a take-home therapist sitting right next to them, watching us as the clinicians help and support the kids, and then allowing you to support the kids. And you'll get some extra training, which would be fun.
And on the SMA website are lists of all the camps across the country. So Leeann, Dr. Fogelson, thank you so much for sharing your time and your expertise. And to our 200 or so folks who shared the evening with us. So with that, we'll say goodnight. And next week on the YouTube channel of SMA, this recording will be available. You can go over it. You can share it with friends, family, therapists. So we'll bid you a good night.
Thank you.